everybody, welcome back to the Stories That Shape Us. I'm your host, Brock Doty, and today's conversation hits really close to home, literally, because today I'm sitting down with someone that I've known since high school. Someone like me who grew up in a small town in Montana and eventually realized that staying in the same place wasn't going to lead to becoming that person that she was meant to be. Today's guest is Brenna Combs, and today's episode is a special one because it's about a movement, not just across the map, but deep within. It's about what happens when you leave your comfort zone behind to find clarity within yourself. When you walk away from what's familiar so you can walk towards something more and greater than yourself. Now, I relate to this story in a very personal way. As many of you may know, a few years ago, I moved to Texas and made a very similar move out of my small town, Montana, and moved all the way to Texas. And I can say with a full confidence that that moment that I stepped outside my comfort zone was the moment that life really started to shape me. It forced me to grow, to stand on my own, and to face my fears and rise above them. And Brenna, she's done the exact same thing. First by leaving for college, and then making a bold move all the way across the country to Tennessee. And she'll tell you herself that that move had made her. It made her more independent, it made her stronger, and it helped her be a better version of herself that had been there all along. Just waiting for the right environment to emerge it. So if you're listening today and you're feeling stuck or restless, or like you've been searching for answers in all the wrong places, I really hope that Brenna's story helps you see that your breakthrough might just be one bold step out of your comfort zone. So Brenna, welcome to the Stories That Shape Us. I'm happy you're here today.
I'm happy I'm here too. I'm excited.
Awesome. It's going to be good. As we were just talking, we've been friends for 10 years. Can you believe that?
No, actually, because we're getting closer to our 10-year reunions, and that's wild to me. That's crazy. We're old. That's what I keep saying. We're old.
But you and I both know that the small town Montana mindset where life just feels predictable, the community's tight knit, and there's just a certain comfort in the routine. What do you think that environment instilled in you early on?
Oh goodness. I mean, as you know, my whole family is back in our hometown. I loved growing up so close to all my family members. That gives a whole new meaning to community. So I had something different than maybe other people did in a small community. I had backbones, but you also grow a lot of independence in that way too. I definitely always felt like I had to be a certain person just because it is such a routine place. You do the same thing every day or even every season. There's seasons in those towns, and it's not a bad thing. It really isn't because it's something for everyone. If you love that kind of life, that's amazing. And I grew up knowing what community was like, always having a family member where I needed them, or if I was stuck in a situation, they were always there for me. But not everyone grew up that way either. But with me, I just felt like I had that backbone, but also I was missing more bones, I guess, to collect myself. You can always have a strong backbone, but if you don't have the rest of it to complete you, you're always missing that main part.
Yeah, that's true. I like what you
Yeah.
said about having family there, because I didn't have my whole family growing up there. I had my grandfather and then my immediate family with my mom and younger brother. But you had aunts and uncles, grandparents, you had cousins, the whole shebang.
Yep, the 200 of us. That's pretty much half a Conrad. Yeah, yeah.
200 out of the 1,200 in the whole town. Everybody's related.
Exactly. And our family reunions, man, everyone in Conrad knew when it was happening. We had like slow signs at my uncle's house. Like everyone in town knew it was happening. Restaurants would be ready and stocked. Very big drinking family. Everyone would have literally all alcohol stocked, ready to go for us. It was just It was always something.
Do you feel like growing up when it's such a close knit family, it made it hard to imagine a different life outside of Conrad, or was there always a part of you that knew that you were meant for something bigger than small town USA?
I would say both. In a good way, I was always the black sheep. I always knew that I wanted to go and do something huge. Even if I'm not there yet, I still feel that way too. I was always the one that would always dream big. The rest of my family, they were content, and I just always felt like I needed something more. But when I was younger, and even through like half of my high school career, I started to feel that comfort, and I was just like, this is just where I am right now. And I'm gonna have to get used to it, make my knits. I need to figure it out from here. I mean, you can't do anything when you're a child. You can dream big all you want, but it's just getting those stepping stones. And I think I started settling in a little too much, and I was losing some of my dreams. So, not until like my junior, senior year of high school, I finally picked back up on dreaming big. But yeah, I think having a large family and having that closeness kept me there and kept me comfortable because I knew I always had someone there for me, and it was my comfort zone for a little while.
Absolutely. I can totally relate to that. But before we get back into the meat of the story, and focusing on the moves, I want to go back to high school. You touched on high school a little bit. You were always super involved back then, whether it
Yeah.
was FCCLA, sports. What do you remember most about your time in high school and your life back then?
Oh gosh. I would describe myself in high school as like somebody that didn't have a specific group. I really tried to get along with every group. So if it was like the bookworms or like the sporty kids or just like people that didn't fit with anybody, like I was always trying to talk to everyone. Did I fail at that sometimes? 1,000%. I like it was hard. But I definitely didn't feel like I had a main group. Yes, I had friends, but I was like I didn't have a main group. I was definitely somebody that liked her plate full in high school. The only reason I actually got into doing even more was because of FCCLA, because Stacy was my homegirl. She really got me going and everything. So when FCCLA started and I got into that and I went to our first like conference my freshman year, it really just started the ball rolling. And then I was like, oh, let me be Yell Squad president. Let me get FCCLA going. And we did like a turkey trot and all that. Like, it made me feel whole again because I was doing something bigger. Gosh, sports, softball was it for me. I mean, and then of course my family's a wrestling family, so I got into the wrestling room with my uncle and I loved every second of it. I think it looked like I was coaching half the time because I couldn't keep my cool. I loved those boys with my whole heart and I loved watching them compete. I loved watching you compete. You tried something new. That was wonderful. It just like it warmed my heart, and that's when I like started feeling like, okay, really like this competitive stuff. So,
Yeah, you were the team
um,
mom for sure. For
like
sure.
100%. A big story that I always think about is when we were in Butte and all y'all were laying around and Kevin's like, you gotta get these boys going. And I'm like, all right, let's go. Let's run some laps. Let's get warmed up.
I
Yeah.
remember that. There's a picture of me and two other kids. We're laying there playing on our phones, and then you're just standing there in the background, and your hands are on your hips.
That's ready to go, man.
uh,
Yeah. High school was a time. I definitely tried to be at every sporting event, no matter if I had somebody to cheer on or not. I was fortunate to have a really good class. Our class was super close, and I would try to support every single person in there. But I loved watching all of it. High school is kind of a blur, though. Like, yeah, you remember like the really good times and some of the bad times, but like it's pretty blurry for me right now.
and that's all right. It was 8 years ago. Like, that's
Oh,
crazy to me, too.
it's
How do you think
wild.
that involvement early on shaped who you are today?
Oh, 100%, 100%. And I think like having the mentors I did in high school really helped me just see the world more, even if they were people that were still in a small town. Like they wanted my creativeness to grow, they wanted my independence to grow, and they helped shape me 100% of the way.
I think it's good to have mentors outside of your family, and it takes a community coming together as one to help see people through, right? But do you think being so active and connected within high school made it harder to leave that small town community, or did it actually give you the confidence to go out and explore something new for yourself?
I actually think it pushed me out. It pushed me out just because I realized that I can be leading something and I can be more than just what my hometown had to offer. I I definitely felt like I could have had a little bit more experience if I had gotten to go somewhere else, maybe. Would I have changed the high school I went to? Absolutely not. I see a lot of value in such a small, like, high school because now I'm in a place that high school is like 3 stories tall. It's wild to me. So, yeah, no, I it definitely pushed me out. It didn't make me grow fonder of it, but it pushed me out to realize that there is a lot more and I am capable of a lot more.
You definitely are. You and I both get what it's like to grow up in a small town where everything is familiar. We drive the same streets, we take the same route to school every day. It's just kind of routine, like we were talking about earlier. And change doesn't come quickly. I remember I was home last Christmas and I was talking about AI to somebody, and they're like, "What's that?" I'm like, "Whoa, like, interesting." But I don't know. How would you describe the mindset that shaped you growing up and that environment within your household, whether it be within school, just kind of growing up?
I think just everything surrounding me, my mindset was always hard work. Hard work gets you somewhere. My parents were very big on you work for what you get. Gosh, from when I even remember I could work, I was working. When the restaurant The Keg actually reopened, I was one of the first waitresses and I was there all through high school and even a little bit into college. I'd come back and I'd work there. We were very big on hard work gets you to where you want to be. And I think that was one of the things that were so great about my family and even the community is like that community is a working community. That is all they do. And they do well at it. So I think having that from the community is amazing because I wouldn't be the person I am without my hard work ethic. That's a lot of what I think even kids are missing nowadays. It's getting scary, but then I go back home and I'm like, but these kids are working. It's wild to see the difference.
You don't see that in Memphis?
No,
Really?
no, no, I don't. Like we were talking before we started talking about this, my kids like they're barely outside. They barely know how to do things independently. Like, and I teach third and fourth grade. That's like years you gotta be independent. Yeah, you just don't see a lot of young workers. You don't see it here. You don't see it really anywhere anymore. But when I go back home, I see just a little bit more than what I do over here. So that's interesting to me.
That is very interesting. Because,
Right.
yeah, like you said, that's all we knew. I remember I worked at the keg for a period of time with you
Yes, you did. I remember that.
before going to wait tables at the branding iron, but like either they're there or they're out in the farm working. Like there's
Yep.
always some sort of work going on that needs to be done. And that is something that I do value about Conrad, that they instill that at such a young age. And so, yeah, that's interesting that Tennessee and Montana are two different. I guess I haven't noticed it in Texas because I don't have kids yet. So I don't know.
Right, right. And I think not even Tennessee as a whole. I'm just in such a different area of Tennessee. Memphis is so different from even like a Tennessee vibe. It is its own state almost.
Talk about the
So,
similarities and differences that you see from Conrad to Memphis.
oh gosh, difference is the diversity. That is one of the main reasons that I wanted to get away from my hometown for a little bit. I needed more diversity. Just Conrad as a whole, you just don't see a lot of it. So when I got over here, it was almost like a culture shock. I teach in a school now that's like 97, 98% Hispanic. It's amazing because the kids teach me things every day. So I love that part. So I don't even know a similarity. I mean, a little bit of outskirts of Memphis, you could definitely see a little bit of farmland. You definitely have like your one out of 20, 30 people of like a cowboy cowgirl walking around. But I there's more differences than there are similarities. But the biggest one is definitely the diversity, and that's just how we grow up and what regions we grow up in. The kids make fun of me of how I talk every day. And these are kids that are just learning English. So I think it's hilarious because they're learning Memphis talk. And I'm saying, okay, go put your bags away. And they're like, what is that? So it's very, it's very hard for them to understand me sometimes.
That's
But
funny because my girlfriend and her family are from Vegas, and
okay.
I've said big my whole life. I still don't hear anything different. Even when they talk, I don't hear anything
Okay,
different.
same, same.
I don't know. It's just
I
interesting.
know. It is. It's very interesting.
All right, now let's fast forward a little bit after high school. Was there ever a point
Okay.
where you had to get honest with yourself and just go, Brenna, even though life in Conrad is familiar and it's all I've known my whole life, and deep down, you just kind of knew that it wasn't helping you grow anymore.
Mhm.
How did stepping into the unknown um, start to feel like it was the only way forward, whether it be going to Dillon for school or moving out of the state?
Oh goodness. I think I held on to some of the small town vibes, I guess, because I went to school in Dillon. Dillon is such a close community. I would even say a little closer than Conrad sometimes. Like just with how things are done in Dillon, they all, again, small town, they have their routines, even if it's a college town. So I definitely held on that to that part because there was a little part of home and it made me feel good. And then I roomed with somebody from Conrad. So I loved every second of it. We actually had a lot of Conrad kids go to Western when we went. So I think that really helped me transition into something that was different. Now looking back at it, I there wasn't really difference, a difference that I needed until I started finding my own jobs there and doing jobs like on my own. Like I went through some jobs that I did not like. Housekeeping was one of them, man. I will never again do that. Bless everyone that does that job because it is rough. Oh my gosh, it was rough.
Was
And
that
then
at the hotel?
yeah, yeah,
I remember
it,
that job.
oh, buddy. So do I. It will be ingrained in my brain forever. Then I landed a job at a preschool, and I think that's what really made me realize that I'm actually gonna start doing something for myself. And so I think I was still in that comfort zone. So everyone else was going to like different colleges, like bigger cities, and or even moving states, and I still picked a comfort zone more so because of financial issues, right? We all want a school that is financially set for you. The block schedule, it was amazing. I won't lie. And I wanted to be the best educator I could. And Western was one of those schools. And I highly suggest it to any educator, but I still felt like I could have reached out somewhere else too. So I think when I finally started getting out of my comfort zone is when I threw that little dart at the map, and I was like, all right, we're putting all hands in. Let's see what we can do. Because I lived in Butte for 2 years, and I taught my first 2 years in Butte. That was also a big gamble because I left college in Dillon early for 1 year, and I moved in, and Butte started becoming what I thought was going to be my home forever. And then, of course, unfortunate events happen. Life took a big change, but that big life change actually is what pivoted my entire mindset for myself. I started respecting myself a lot more. And of course, it was a relationship issue. I think that we as humans are looking so much for a soul partner that I think we stretch it a little too far. We've all made mistakes, and I won't say that this was a mistake because it made me who I am, but definitely getting out of that and believing that I am worth a lot more was beautiful for me. So I took it and I ran with it, and then I started looking up teaching jobs in the US, and I was like, all right, first one that contacts me back, let's go. I never even thought about Memphis as a place. So, yeah, I think that was the biggest change, I guess, is something that literally broke me down into a million pieces. It's not something that was good. I think a lot of people look at, oh, she's doing so well, like something amazing must have happened to her. No, it was literally my absolute rock bottom. So, I guess take that as a grain of salt, but like once I hit rock bottom, I started really connecting with myself again because I lost myself for a long time. And I think a lot of people around me saw that too.
How'd you
So,
find yourself?
oh,
That's kind of
goodness,
a
it
deep
took a lot.
question. Wow, Brock, why are you gonna ask that?
Jeez, Rock. uh, I will say it took a while. I actually moved in with my best friend and her fiance at the time. So I was definitely at rock bottom. Finding myself it wasn't weeks or months. It took a good year. I really didn't find myself in who I was until I got in Memphis. It wasn't all by myself either. I have a really good support system. My boyfriend is amazing. He has brought a lot of light to my life because he's making me see that I am a lot more. But it wasn't until my mom, dad, and I pulled into Memphis. My mom's in the back freaking out because all the traffic. My dad's just holding on for dear life. We got a little U-Haul in the back of my car. And I just know my mom said 1,000 prayers that day because I look back and I'm like, Mom, are you okay? She's like, it's just too much traffic for me. I'm like, we're almost there. We're almost there. But I could just feel it. And once my parents got on that flight back home, I was alone. And so I started changing right away. I got a gym membership. I went and I found a church that has literally touched my soul. So, 2 weeks of being in Memphis, and I actually started finding myself. I started searching for myself again. I never had the sit down time to just be with myself. I was always trying to do everything for everyone else. If that was my family, if it was a boyfriend, if it was my best friend, I never stopped. And I figured that out really quickly when I was alone and it was silent. It's like I have no one to go and help or no one to go and do things with. So I think that a lot of that independence came out too. I've always been super independent, but now I'm very independent. It's crazy. I think it's crazy just looking at it now. And after it's like talking about it, I guess I never talk about it. So I love that you got me on to talk about it because I never talk about it and it sounds crazy now.
Good. I'm glad you're coming up on your end of your first year teaching in Memphis. How's that been?
Yeah. It's crazy. It's crazy. I love my school. I love everyone I work with, but I am not going to say that it's been easy. Again, I teach Hispanic children, and English is not their first language. So there's a lot of barriers there, and it has pulled at me as a teacher. I really have to scale back and think of like what they're going through as well. I'm used to everyone knowing what I'm saying right away. And so if they don't do it right away, I need them to get going. But now I've scaled back a lot, and I think I've grown as a teacher. Again, getting like culturally aware. I've gotten to see a lot of different cultures. I've gotten to hear a lot of different stories from kids. And it's actually made me see the world as so much bigger. This school has made me a much better teacher. I'm so excited to see what next year brings, because that first year you're in a new place. It's hard because you had to figure out a whole new curriculum, everything. So I think next year is going to be amazing. I have some of the same kids again because I'll move up to fourth grade with my third graders for math, and I get a whole new group. And so I'm excited. This year has took me out, man, but we are at the end of it, and I couldn't be more blessed of where I am. And I'm so thankful that my principal fought for me to come here. So
Awesome. I
I'm
can only
excited.
imagine how great of a teacher you are because you're so compassionate, so loving, so caring. You're a great friend, so I know you're a great teacher for those little ones. But was there any
Thanks.
teachers in your life who influenced that decision to go into teaching? Or was it more of about the kind of difference that you wanted to make in others' lives around you?
I would say it's both. Um, Miss Slosher was my second grade teacher, and I loved how hard she was on me. I was a yapper, and she
You
knew
still
it.
are.
I still am. I still am. Way more so am now than I used to be. So I loved how hard she was on us, because my family's that way. You know that they're hard on everyone. They make jokes all the time. Like, she was that person for me, and she always held us accountable. I really loved that, and I guess I never noticed it until she passed away. I started like searching back. She made a big change in my life because I was not a straight A student. Again, my family instilled in us that working hard gets you where you want to be. I was maybe a BC student my entire life. I had to push to get the grades I needed to get. So a lot of hard work and dedication, and she instilled that in me, and she chose me to be student of the month. And in Conrad, that's a big thing. We have like a whole thing in Conrad, Montana for student of the month when you're in elementary, and it really touched me, and I held that close to my heart because she actually saw something in me that I didn't. So from second grade on, I started really working. And then I got into about fifth grade. I was horrible at reading. Again, I struggled. Our principal, Greg Jensen, was an amazing man. You probably have heard the scholarships that they have for him. Amazing man. He was the tennis coach for high school. He literally was my favorite person in that school building. He would always come and check on me. He was good with everyone. He brought so much comfort to me. And so I got put in his reading group. Of course, it was the lowest of the low. And I know that now. I didn't at the time. I know that now. Um, and he just kept pushing me and pushing me. And he would like have a little coffee hour with me in his office and just be like, "You are doing so well." And he just kept telling me, like, "You're going to be a teacher one day. And I know you are. If you keep working hard, you're going to be a teacher one day." And so after he said that, that was my dream. I wanted to be a teacher. I wanted to do that. He also passed away. And so when that happened, I knew I had to live out that dream. And I knew that I needed to prove to him that he was right. He was 100% right. I do have the compassion for it. And I'm so blessed that I have that. Because it takes a lot. And he pops into my head every once in a while when I'm just going crazy with these kids, and his soft hand, because he would always lay a hand on your shoulder and be like, "It's gonna be okay." And so I think of that every time. But those are the two main people that just really inspired me to be that. But I also wanted to change kids' lives. I wanted them to know that they are much more than a test score. I want them to know that this is their safe space. Just because of what I went through, just like academically, just because you're not the number one student doesn't mean that you're dumb. So I want every kid to feel like school can be a second home to them and that I can be a person that they're always safe with. And I want to be that teacher that they remember. If I make it through a whole year and I change one kid's life, that's all I want to do. I want to touch somebody, and that's my mission throughout life, not just with teaching. Like, if I can meet anyone, I want to make sure that they'll remember me. And so just being that kind human is what my teaching ability has brought to me.
I love that, Brenna. There's a quote out there that goes, people won't remember what you said or what you did. They'll remember how you made them feel. And that is so true, because
Yep.
just describing Mr. Jensen and Miss Slosher, like, you remember how they made you feel. And so I think that's beautiful. Now I'm kind of jumping all over the board. I'm sorry. I don't plan out my questions.
Don't worry about it. Again, that's how my brain works. That's how we work.
Squirrel.
Yep.
Anyways, even though you stayed in Montana for college, you did move 4 hours away from everything that you knew. And I don't think you gave yourself enough credit on that, because that's huge. A lot of kids aren't willing to move out of their hometown or go to college. So I applaud you for that. But what did that first move away teach you about yourself when you were kind of out on your own, outside of the dorms, living in your three-bedroom apartment with two other girls?
Oh, if there was struggles with that. But it was good struggles. It's what we needed to go through. It definitely, again, it taught me independence. Just because I lived with two other girls, it didn't mean that we were always together either. Again, I had to search for, like, what can I do outside of just being with them all the time? And we loved spending time together. You know that. Like, we were always together. We were always doing
You
things.
guys always had wine nights. I remember you guys would invite me for wine nights.
Always. Always. That was our favorite thing. Yeah, again, we just liked the presence of each other, and sometimes we would just walk out in the living room and sit there in silence, but it was still having presence with somebody. But that big first move, like out of the dorms, was good for us because we started getting out of our comfort zone of that small town vibe. We started meeting people from different states, and we would go hang out with people out of our education department. I mean, it was good for us. It was definitely a lot of learning curves, though. Just learning how to manage your time without having a dorm schedule. Not like everyone follows it, but and just being able to buy your own food, making sure you have food, like figuring out what's for dinner. Like, it's those little things in life you're like, oh, this is horrible. But yeah, I guess just it wasn't as difficult as I thought it would be. Like my mom would say, if my mom was in this conversation, she's like, "You had no problem being away from home." I didn't. I never had a problem. When my brother was born, my mom, dad, and him had to be away for a long time because he was born with complications, and so I stayed with my cousin a lot. So I had no problem going to somebody's house or being somewhere else traveling. So I think that's what I mean by I was the black sheep. I was always the go-getter and wanting to do something. So I think that first move didn't bother me as much as I thought it was going to. And I feel like a lot of people think it's going to. And they kind of figure out, oh, this is nothing. This isn't even close to what life is going to be like. So,
100%. I agree. Like, once you get in the routine of things, it's pretty easy. Except for making
yeah.
something different for dinner every night. That's probably the hardest part.
I still struggle with that to this day. I have the same thing for dinner all the time.
I'll make something big and I'll eat it on it throughout the week. But fast forwarding to the bigger leap to Tennessee, where you're at today, what did that move offer you that even college, even if it was 4 hours away from home. Couldn't. You're now all the way across country. I don't know how many hours. What is it, like 24?
Yeah, we drove 24 hours all the way here. Oh gosh. My boyfriend and I have talked about this so many times. I think it really showed me that I don't have to be there for everything. I keep saying this over and over again, but independence, but like for myself. I'm not there to help everyone. Like I said, being 4 hours away, I could still drive home. So if there was an issue, I could drive home. And I wanted to be there for everything. Even if my family's like, oh, you don't have to come, it's okay. No, I was the person like, nope, I'm going to be there, right now. So moving cross country has showed me that I don't have to be present for everything. Life is going to keep moving and they're going to figure it out. Just like I'm going to figure it out on my own here. Yes, I still have support, but sometimes God needs to work it out. Like, I need to trust that He's got it. He's got my family. I've always felt like I was responsible for how my family was doing or how everyone was feeling. I was always the fixer of everything. And I had such a weight lifted off of my shoulders. And it's nobody's fault but my own because I was doing that. Even when I lived 4 hours away, I was like, nope, I'm jumping in my car right now. I'll make an overnight trip. Like, I'll be there in the morning. I'm realizing, like, I don't need to hop on a plane every time something happens. They got it. God's got it. If something is happening to me here, I can handle it. I can make new connections that will help me through it. And it's really pushed me to make those new connections. And this move was such a blessing in disguise. And I had no idea that this was going to happen. I wish I could take credit to be like, oh yeah, I knew this was gonna better my life. No, I was scared shitless, dude. Like, that whole 24-hour drive with my parents, I was pooping my pants. I was like, am I going to make it through this? I don't know if I am. Mostly when my mom, dad, and I were moving all my stuff up that third floor, and my dad's sweating down his shirt, and I'm sweating. I'm like, I don't think I'm gonna make it here. I love the freedom that I've given myself with this opportunity. And I wish I could take that credit too, but I know that God was definitely telling me, no, it's your time. You've been wanting to do this. It's one step under what I really wanted to do. I was going to move to Costa Rica and teach there for a couple months, but I'm like, let's take baby steps, Brenna.
Costa Rica.
Yeah.
I did not know that about you. Wow.
Yeah, so I was actually looking into teaching jobs over there to see if I could do a couple months over there, but I applied for, Brock, I think it was like 10 to 12 different teaching positions, and I think one of them was one over there just to see if I could get in, whatever, but it was a lot, and it kept going in a different direction. I'm like, okay, well, that's not the direction I need to go right now, and that's okay. And so I got a couple calls from Memphis, actually. And they're like, okay, let's set up a video chat. And I did a video chat, and I was like, oh my gosh, I love this principal. Like, she's amazing. And she emails me, and she's like, you got the job. Like, and so not even thinking about it, I was like, oh, I'm fine. I'll figure it out. I signed the papers and I called my parents. I'm like, hey, I'm moving to Memphis, just so you know. And my dad's like, what? What are you going to do? I'm like, I don't know, but we're going. So it was a shock to everyone. My boyfriend was a big push though. He's like, you have to do it. Like, what's holding you back? And I think he's the very first partner I've ever had that was just like, don't worry about me. We're going to figure it out. We can do this distance thing for a year and figure out where we are then. And my golly, we've done it. So it's been a learning curve, but I'm so thankful that he gave me that opportunity because I am that person again that wants to stay because I want to fix everything. So I got a boyfriend and I was like, no, I got to stay close. And he's like, absolutely not. Like, you are not staying here for that. So again, I have that great backbone.
Wow.
And here I am.
I'm proud of you. That's
So
awesome.
thank you.
How did it feel to start completely fresh with no familiar faces,
Oh,
no hometown safety net? Did that space allow you to rise something new in you that you didn't know that you had before?
100%. We have a week long teacher training. So it's for all new teachers, right? Um, I went in blind. I had no idea what I was going into. I don't know anyone. Everyone's like, "Oh, you moved there because you have like family or at least one person." I'm like, "No, like I know absolutely nobody." And it shocked everyone, and I'm like, it shocked me too because I'm like, okay, I can't text somebody and be like, "What are you wearing to this?" so I don't look dumb. Like, I didn't know anybody. Yes, I knew my principal from a video chat, but that's it. So I went to that new teacher training, and again, a weight was lifted off my shoulders. I'm like, nobody knows my story. But I'm talking about like my bad times. They don't know my family. They're not basing who I am off of somebody else. That was the best feeling I have ever had in my entire life. It gave me clarity of I get to be 100% myself. And I think I realized in that moment that I have never gotten to be 100% myself. So I geared up for that first day of training and I was like, you know what? I'm going to be me. I'm not going to hold back. I'm going to do it. So there I am, Brenna yapping up and raising her hand, answering every question. I'm like, oh, I really brought the action this time. I was refreshed. I felt so new and so born again into something that I've been searching for so long because I feel like growing up in a community that I have such a huge family. It's like, oh, well, your family does this, this, and this, so that's exactly who you are. But like I said, I'm the black sheep. I'm not like them. Yeah, I have attributes of them, but I'm not them. So coming here and them not knowing that and them asking me like who I am and what Montana's like, it was so awesome. I got to talk about me and who I was, not about my family, not about, oh, this person's doing well. Like I got to talk about me. And like I just said in this video, like I never do that. And so it was super exciting. And I actually catch myself talking about me a lot more and I need to scale it back a little bit. But yeah, I was born again. Moving here in that first week of teacher training just really changed my course of life and something clicked and I was like, I get to be me. I get to pursue whatever I want to pursue. And that's when my light bulb came back on and the dreams I've been dreaming lately, I'm really excited.
I love
So
that, Brenna. That's awesome.
yeah,
Just kind of that sense of,
yeah.
you can breathe again. Like a weight's lifted
Yes.
off your shoulders because there's a preconceived notion in all small towns. Like we all have it. We
Yep.
all get labeled because that's
Yes.
small town.
One
I don't know
wrong
why.
move.
Yep.
Yep.
But we've talked a lot about independence, and I want to kind of go back to that again, squirrel moment. But when you think
That's
about
okay.
independence and the independence that you have now, how does it feel different from what you thought independence was back from when we were in college in Dillon?
Ugh. Independence back then felt like me handling everything and handling it when I didn't feel able to. So I would stack so much on my plate. I thought, oh, I'm so independent that I can do this all on my own. I don't need help. I got it. I'm taking care of everybody. Like, this is me being independent. They need me. I don't need them. And that was always my mindset. And now it's not. I'm like, I can go to the store by myself because even in our small town, I would always call up my best friend and be like, can you please come in the store with me? Like, will you do this, this, and this? Do I miss that? 1,000%. I miss having my best friend close to me and doing things like that, or even in Dillon in college and doing that. But now I've grown such an actual independence of feeling comfortable in my own skin. So I think independence now is feeling comfortable in my own skin to do things by myself. And I'm not worried about somebody looking at me funny. Um, I think growing up in a small town, you're always worried about what everyone else thinks about you. And I always said to myself that I didn't care, but deep down I did.
So
I
true.
wouldn't wear certain, right? I wouldn't wear certain things because I knew that they would talk about it and nobody else did it in my hometown. And or like they would have a new person come in and they were so different and you would almost see their colors get dimmer because they wanted to fit in with a small community. Again, our small community is not a bad thing, but it's so small that like sometimes your colors just dim. When I moved here, like I got my color back. Like it I don't even know how to explain it. It's just such a beautiful feeling that
Living in a small town,
everyone needs
you
to
want to try and
experience.
fit the mold of everybody else, but then
Exactly.
coming out of a small town, you've broken the mold, and now you're being yourself again.
Exactly. It will always be my home, but now I need to place different seeds in my roots other places, and I think that's okay. Um, you can see rainbows from all parts of the world, right? So I just feel like you don't have to be that. I guess if I want to stay with the rainbow theme, that pot of gold that is stuck in that one place, you want to be the rainbow coming out of the pot of gold. You want to be the rainbow going and seeing everything first and then plant your roots. Like, I want to explore the world. I want to do that. I want to make myself comfortable in independence. But I don't want to be independent of the fact I'm weighing myself down because that's independence that I did my entire life and I don't need that anymore. I need independence of saying hello to a stranger and becoming their friend. Um I had a really hard time with that. I try to be very open with everyone I meet, and I try to be like, "Oh, hi, how are you?" I always try to greet the new person. But I think moving here, I got better at it. And I was like, "Hey, do you want to grab coffee?" Even though I just met you 5 minutes ago. But I wouldn't do that in my hometown because I feel like they think I'm weird for doing that. But here I'm like, well, I may not see this person ever again. So if they say no, oh well. So
That actually
yeah.
segments me in my next question. Was there a challenge that you faced in your first year living in Tennessee that has really enforced you or embraced you and your independence in a way that you hadn't before? I know you were kind of talking about meeting a stranger for coffee or just saying hello with open arms.
Um, Finding people. I've really struggled with it. I'm not gonna lie. I wake up, I go to work for 8 hours a day. Our commutes are different here. Like I have to drive 20 minutes to work, 20 minutes back. It's not just oh, it's 5 minutes down the road and go home, right? So a lot of your time is taken by that. And so I wake up, I go to work, and now before I started going to the gym, I literally would just go home because I didn't know what to do. I didn't know anyone. Yes, I had my work family, but it's like we just spent 8 hours a day with each other. We're all ready to go home. So I think this entire year, I've struggled finding my people. Thankfully, I have a really amazing coworker that has been so great with me. She actually asked me to run a race with her and everything, and that's what got me like actually going with people. But she's the only one I've gone with just because it's such a different lifestyle here. And I think me not being married or having kids is a big factor. Um, so, gosh, if anybody is like watching this or when they watch it, I want them to know that our 20s are hard and you're not alone because, yes, I have a very loving boyfriend, but he's in Montana still. And so all of these women and or men have wives, kids, husbands at home to go home to. I don't have that here. So I had to search for something else. And so I actually joined Orange Theory, and I finally started building a community. So after these last I think it's been 2, 3 months now, I I've made a lot of new friends. I go there 2, 3 times a week, and that's my adult time. So I go from kid time, talking to kids all day, to that adult time. And I think that's what us teachers struggle with the most. And just me personally is I have to shut my brain off from kid mode and go back to being an adult. I've struggled really hard with finding my people here. So I've had to be independent with that. Like if I want to go somewhere downtown or anything, which Memphis isn't the safest place. And I know that my family is very upset with me for moving into an unsafe area. One of the most unsafe places in America, but it's okay. Uh, so I just have to be very aware and independent and making myself go to things by myself. Go to a movie by myself, go to the gardens by myself, go to a festival by myself, because they might be busy. But now I've gotten to the point of my independence of asking somebody to hang out. That is part of being independent. I think people miss that point. Being independent is working towards building up confidence to do something out of your comfort zone. Because I wouldn't do that because I would always think that I'm bothering somebody. But now I'm like, no, they're living their life too. And they're like me. If they don't get a text, they might not know I want to hang out. So, I mean, it's been difficult, but I'm making my way. And I always say this and I always will. 1 year does not tell you anything. 1 year is like 1 week. You got to stay somewhere for at least 2 years to really get a feel of things. But that is always my rule. I go 2 years, and that will give me what I have been looking for, because I'm at my end of the school year and I'm just now getting comfortable. So it's taken me a good year to even get a little comfortable with where I'm at. So then next year I can really actually grow into something. So let words spill.
I like that 2 year rule, even though you just
Yes.
word spilled on me. But I think it's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
I think you're changing lives both in your community and within the school. And so I just want to pause here for a moment, Brenna, and take a moment for you to just open up some space for you to speak from your heart. I know you've been speaking from your heart this whole time, but I want you to just have the floor. If someone was listening right now and they're feeling stuck, afraid, or like they've lost sight of who they are and who they're supposed to be or where they're supposed to go, what would you want to say to them? Not as someone who has all the answers, but as someone who has kind of walked through that unknown and came out stronger on the other side.
Just because your path looks like it's getting shorter doesn't mean that there isn't a longer path somewhere else. So you might be on a straight path and it's starting to end, but you need to look into the field a little bit. There might be another trail somewhere else, and it might lead you to something beautiful. I just wish and I hope whoever is listening, mostly if you're in your 20s like we are, I mean, take risks, because if you're just going to stay in that comfort zone, you might never fulfill what God has planned for you, what you have planned for yourself. I have a huge saying in my classroom, and it's tattooed on my leg. It is never a failure, it is always a lesson. So if you are moving somewhere, if you are trying something new and you don't succeed, you didn't fail. You learned a lesson. So now throughout your entire life, you have that lesson that will stick with you forever. You either say, oh, I did so well at this, I can continue. Or you didn't do well at it and you're not going to go back down that path. You're going to find another one to go on. So I guess my favorite saying in the whole world, it's never a failure. It's always a lesson. And I want them to take that lesson. It's my favorite.
I love that. I'm definitely going to adopt that because lessons
Yeah.
are everyday life.
Yes.
They dictate the direction that we go in, and ultimately so do
Mhm.
failures, sadly. So that's beautiful. I want to adopt that. But I'm going to say a few words here. I'll speak on a Bible verse and we'll get out of here. But Brenna, I just want to say thank you. As I listened to your story today, what stood out to me the most wasn't just the move across the country, but it was the mindset shift that had to happen before the move ever took place. Leaving your comfort zone is never easy. And when you grow up in a small town like we did, the familiar can start to feel like a safety net, but sometimes that safety net becomes the very thing that holds you back from who you were truly meant to be. Brenna didn't just change her zip code, but she changed her direction. She stepped away from what was safe, known, and comfortable and walked into a completely new season without a clear roadmap. She was there trusting that there was something more for her on the other side. And the truth is, that kind of leap doesn't just come with guaranteedness. It comes with bravery. It's also about being faithful. And it reminds me of a verse in Hebrews 11:18. And that verse isn't just about biblical figures like Abraham. It's about people like Brenna, people like you, and people like me. People who say yes to growth, even when the next step feels uncertain. Because sometimes the unknown isn't something to fear, but it's where God does his best work. Brenna was sharing her story today, and it was about leaving behind the unfamiliar, stepping into the unknown, and just trusting that she was being shaped all along. So I couldn't help but think about Hebrews 11:18. And in that, the Bible states, by faith, Abraham when Abraham was called to go to a place he would later receive his inheritance, he obeyed and went. Even though he did not know where he was going, he still went. And that doesn't just line up perfectly with what we've heard today. God didn't give Abraham a map, but he gave him a call. And Abraham, all he had to do was trust. Trust God enough to take that first step. And that's exactly what Brenna did. She didn't have every detail figured out. Clearly, she accepted the job, then called her parents. Kind of backwards, but whatever. And she figured it out, though. She left her hometown and moved all the way across the country where nobody knew who she was. But ultimately, she trusted that there was more for her beyond life that she had known in small town Montana. And because that leap of faith, she didn't just find her new place, but she found a stronger version of herself. Her story reminds us that sometimes God's greatest work in us begins when we're willing to step out of our comfort zone, even when we don't know exactly what we're doing or where we're going in this case. So if you're listening today and you're feeling that pull to make a move, to start fresh, to chase purpose, to grow, I want you to remember this. You don't need to have it all figured out. You just need to trust that the one who is calling you forward is calling you forward for a reason. So, as I wrap up today, I just want to remind you that Brenna's story leaves us with a reminder that sometimes the most defining chapters of our lives, beginning the moment that we step out of what's comfortable and what's familiar, because she didn't have to have all the answers. None of us do, but she chose courage anyways. And in that courage, it led her to growth. And she identified a life that she never would have found staying where she felt safe. If you're feeling that same pull in your life, I hope her story gave you the permission to believe that the change, while scary, can also be the next step. And the journey ahead, it might just be the one that shapes you the most. So, next week, I'll be sitting down with someone whose story is all about rebuilding after failure, heartbreak, and losing it all. You won't want to miss this conversation. It's raw, redemptive, and it reminds you that it's never too late to begin again. As always, thanks for listening, for showing up, and for being part of the stories that shape us. Until next time, keep growing, keep healing, and keep becoming who you were truly meant to be all along. This has been The Stories That Shape Us, and join us each week for real stories, real growth, and real impact. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you next time.